Pop quiz asshole. There was a recent study, Bill. 180 of the biggest cities in the United States were put under a test to find out which were the happiest, ranking on these 31 factors, including some of these: life satisfaction, depression, COVID, of course, incoming growth, employment rate, job satisfaction, and weather. Where do you believe it's crazy, but what do you think are some of either the ones that ranked in the top 5 happiest cities or the bottom 5?
I'll say Carolina. Any of the Carolina cities would be up there.
No Carolina cities to mention.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah.
Low ones, maybe New York City?
Nope, no, not New York. Don't overthink it. Where are some real tough places to live?
Detroit.
Detroit ranked in number 1 least happy city. What's another just rough go of a city you think, I wouldn't want to live there?
Akron, Cleveland.
Cleveland also on the list, which is funny because I think I've told you this before. When I was younger and I used to do the baseball trips with my dad, when I went to Cleveland, there's just this one stretch of road. You have Jacobs Field. I don't think it's called that anymore. You have where the Cavs play, and then you have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and where the Browns play. It's all in one area. It's awesome.
I mean,
the fact that
all the teams stink pretty much, or stanked for a long time.
That's true.
But Santa Barbara high up on there for
So I'll give you credit. So 2 of them, one is Fremont, California. Another is San Jose, California.
All right, nice weather.
Yeah, and here's some random ones. I was blown away by this. Madison, Wisconsin. Okay, weather was on here. Bismarck, North Dakota. Fargo, North Dakota. Those are top 5.
Those are happy people.
I guess these are.
It's low income out there. I'd be happy if I paid half of what I paid for everything out here. So,
guess that's true. And then the other bottoms was Augusta, Georgia, which isn't that where the Masters? That's a weird one. Memphis, but maybe it's just because they have a really terrible song named after them, and Toledo, Ohio. So, I don't know. If you had to move to one of those places, Bill, where would you go? Detroit?
No, God, no. I would probably go to Ohio. I have family in Ohio, and it's not that bad. They have big roller coasters, too.
Shout out to Brad Guy. Progressive Field is the name of the city there, or where Cleveland is. But it was Jacobs when I was there, and it was awesome when it was Jacobs Field. Because let's be honest, Bill, if you weren't an Indians fan in the mid-'90s, with the Jim Thome, Manny Ramirez, what were you doing?
Roger Dorn.
Now we're talking. You had to hit, when it came to the closer, Bill, you had to hit one song. And here it is.
Well, if you talk to the average teenager of today and you ask them what it is about pop culture that they like, and the first thing they'll say is the beat.
Get yourself addicted. Get yourself addicted.
Welcome into the Pop Culture Piledriver. Get addicted to the content. I'm Jason Rossi. You can find me across all social media platforms at Jason D Rossi. You can follow our little show here on the Twitter machine at Pop Culture PD. We're not the police, but we couldn't fit Pop Culture Piledriver in all of the categories. And once you do follow at Pop Culture PD, it will instantly make your vision better. And with me, as always, is my tag team partner in the podcast sphere, the most creative son of a bitch you've ever met. He's at Billy D 2411 across all those socials, and including Tinder. Follow him, swipe right, left, whatever the good one is. He's Billy D. What's going on, dude?
Hello. Yeah, and I also just found out you can get Tinder and Bumble on your desktop.
Is that good?
A little bit of Command C, Command V action, and you're just pumping out the messages like nobody's business.
Oh, that is so. This is groundbreaking.
Yeah,
I'm into this. Well, no, I'm not, but you know what I mean. Or am I?
Maybe set up a little auto click button, pay for premium, and just get everybody
like a bot. You could be like those people when like an Ian Rappaport or people that have millions of followers. Whenever they tweet, there's always these people that it says Ian Rappaport tweeted 13 seconds ago. Somebody 11 seconds ago has an auto response there. I don't get how it works. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, I don't think you want to be that quick on the trigger. They call that thirsty these days, but you never know.
So you're saying you're not thirsty?
Oh, well,
cheers.
Taking a sip of water right now.
Cheers, my dude. Today, our podcast is all about the wonderful little program that Disney Plus dropped on us and made us forget all about the horridness of not being able to leave the house. That is WandaVision. But before we get to it, please subscribe on iTunes if you're just joining us for the first time. appreciate your eyeballs and your ears and all the other parts of your body. But you can subscribe to Pop Culture Piledriver on iTunes. Please leave a 5-star review. Might have only been 4. You can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon, anywhere you find a podcast. Our stank butts are there. Like and subscribe over on YouTube. Also, we're a part of the Dork Shared Gooniverse over on Facebook. That includes the Dork Podcast, the Mac and Goo program, the Change My Mind podcast, Them Streamers. There's also like 5 other podcasts, including Them Pineapple Boys that I've heard it both ways. The Rewatch podcast of Psych, featuring this magnificent son of a bitch and Dr. Joe. He's also a streamer with Twitch. We also have Chime Time. Arvon D is doing it over there, as well as the MCU podcast that is consistently changing. Now is called Dr. Bods, which I'm looking forward to.
I think it's called Caps Booze.
Oh, Caps Booze. I thought it was Caps Bods. Are you sure it's not Bods?
I'm pretty sure. I made the logo, so yeah.
But the O, it's very deceiving. I like the font, like it. So that's Mac, and I don't know if that's Goo.
It's not Mac. It's anybody but Mac.
I was gonna say, is this free range again, or is this gonna be Wes locked in? Do we know?
I think it's Wes locked in because he does the work. I don't want to do the work. Plus, I don't think people want to hear me. So I think it works out well. He does the digging for the spoilers, and that's not an easy thing to do.
No, I don't like that. They do spoilers on that?
Not spoilers. Easter eggs is a better way to put it. They do a lot of Easter eggs.
They
do spoilers, not like pre, but like if you listen to them post, they're not going to give you the spoiler-free review a la the Boxers did for a while. Which credit to them. That's fucking tough to do. Yeah. If you've watched something and you talk about it, like Dork tried to do their review of WandaVision spoiler-free for a little while, you can get about a minute out of it.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. We don't do any of that. It's all, if you haven't seen it, peace. Like, I get it. You can check out merch we have right now at TeePublic. Search Pop Culture Piledriver. You can put Pop-Culture-Piledriver. All proceeds right now are going to Frank Says Hi, which is the nonprofit partner of this podcast, which is raising funds for those affected by cancer, including direct funds given to Dana-Farber Cancer Institute for experiential events for those that are in a age group that is just not funded as much as young adults and older people that are older that are dealing with cancer. So anything, you can go check out Frank Says Hi for that. Bill, I'll be honest with you. We could talk a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things going on in the world, but I think this is a heavy program. I think we get right into this bitch.
Well, do you want me to play the video that I made?
Oh my God, did you put it in?
Yeah. Look,
you just told me you did in a private chat. We're probably going to get bounced off of YouTube, but let's give this a little whirl here. So our topic today again is WandaVision.
What is grief, if not love? Persevering.
When it gets through to me, it's always new to me.
What?
Awesome job on that one, Bill. And just in case you haven't listened, heard, been on YouTube, a podcast of other varieties, we're reviewing WandaVision. And Bill, we start off usually these things with the simple question: did you like WandaVision?
I couldn't have liked it anymore. I really don't.
You really?
I love this thing. I love this show.
Okay. Is that hyperbole or is this like legit?
I take a different approach to this one just because I've also listened to every review in the Dork Shared universe, and like I planned on tackling it differently than most anyways, just because I'm not as well versed in the MCU. Like I don't really know who Mephisto is and like all that kind of crap. So I'm going to tackle it more from a sense of like just this story, how well it was told, the characters in it, the acting of it, and basically the whole thing is, a story of grief and Wanda creating Vision and this whole universe out of her perseverance of grief, which is love. And so everything she did was built out of love, which is kind of weird because she's also a little bit of the big bad in this. She can be considered the villain because she's got a whole town under her spell. So it was a really just well done show. And, we'll get into the full breakdown of everything. But I was just enamored from start to finish because they really took swings. And I'd say 90% of them landed.
Interesting. I think we can have that. We'll get into all of that. For me, right off the top, did I like it? Yeah, I loved it as well. It was a must-watch show on a Friday, and I haven't felt that way since probably TGIF or when SmackDown moved over to Fox. But literally, like, I love theorizing. I loved learning. For me, like you said, I am not a comic book guy. I don't know any of the backstories, all these, the Mephistos, or if we were going to bring Dormammu back in, or all the tie-ins. I know what's to come in the MCU because of what was released. Like, I know that Wanda's going to be a part of the multiverse of madness with Doctor Strange. And as you know by now, that had nothing to do with this story, allegedly. Maybe there's something that will allude to it, but I kind of feel like this was a nice standalone movie, or should I say program, where there won't likely be a season 2. It's just kind of like something they put in here. It brought 2 characters, #Justice for Vision, who we did not see in Endgame, which was one of my biggest complaints of that entire movie. There was like 9 hours of character toy drops at the end. We couldn't get Vision in, and I don't want to hear about, Stone crap.
He was dead.
So was allegedly everybody else was dead too.
Yeah, but that was part of the snap. They couldn't bring him back. They couldn't bring back Black Widow either.
Hey, Gamora was there. They found a way. They went back in time.
She was different though, because we're not going to get into
story.
this.
I didn't write the story. They
They
could have done it. That's all I'm saying. They could have given Justice for Vision.
No, they couldn't have.
Yes, they absolutely could have. You go back in time. You bring him back.
This is Justice for Vision. You were on top of it.
That's my point.
I believe you said something different in the draft, which was hilarious.
No, I know, but that is like the 2 people that follow Nick Fryer on Twitter that are watching this probably realize that he pointed out something that was way later. I said Justice for Vision like whenever that happened. So Keith literally berated me for an hour of one of their podcasts when Davey wasn't able to do it. He asked me to come on and make my argument why I was disappointed in Endgame. Really didn't let me speak, but the times I did, it was all about one of my major points was Vision. They had a legit ending with Toy Drop. But back to the show. It was the thing I loved about it, and I'm probably going to mention this several times throughout, is it brought back why week-to-week non-binging television is the best form. It creates community, not just a nice show. It creates legit buzz. There are several people in my life that do not care about the MCU, do not care about anything, just heard the show as like the it show, kind of like Tiger King was like a year ago now, that you just flock to it. But guess what? With Tiger King, I never watched Tiger King, but like I know everything about it.
Figures.
No, it was not like because I didn't want to. By the time everything happened, I already knew. Like everybody told me the entire story. But if it was week to week and I missed 2 weeks, could easily snap that thing on and get into it. So I really hope that like this builds for like, and I know, by the way, the backing of like 21 films of MCU and like credibility.
24 at this point.
Those 20, I mean, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Like you're right. 20 plus films of credibility were brought here. And I thought, we've talked about this in our many recaps, but to bring a Wanda who is probably a D tier character in the MCU thus far, with Vision who is at best a C- character in the MCU, aside from like a big part with Ultron, like how that all came about. But like that is what made this show special. They took 2 characters I think you said you could care less about and made them well, oxymorons or not, or English major or not. But like they brought these 2 here and it made you dive into their stories using very unique storytelling. And I think that's why it's become such a buzz.
It's very unique storytelling, but it's also the simplest storytelling that there is. It was, rule of thirds applies to more than just comedy. And I mean, I know, this is basic stuff that everybody knows already, but 9 episodes, it was broken down into basically 3 parts. And everybody says, well, you didn't really need the first 3 episodes.
Yes, you did.
Well, the first act of a movie is always kind of the build and the slow part of the movie. And so many people now love, to your point, Wanda and Vision, where they didn't like them before. And everybody was like, oh, it really picks up around episode 4, which is where most movies pick up in an arc, right in the middle there when you get to that. But what I'm saying is you needed to be in that world with them, living with them in the 1950s, 60s, and a little bit of the 70s to really love these characters. Because Keith said the same thing that you said. That if you were to rank, I don't want to hear. Shut up. You can let me talk 1 or 2 points here or there. What I'm going to point, I'm going to give other people credit.
I just want to say that I did not listen, so I don't know. So I don't want to hear that I repeat somebody because I didn't. But I'm not saying that against you.
Yeah. You're fine. What I'm saying here is he made the same kind of point that you did, which is a great point. That if you were to do, say, the 64 characters of the MCU for a bracket, you would have had these guys as playing games or maybe 16 to 14 seeds, really low on a bracket. But now, because you spent so much time in this with them, you are now endeared to them. You have built a three-dimensional character for both of these kind of meh, C-tier people that you didn't before. And I really believe that, everybody hammered this point on that. Nothing happened in the first 2 episodes. I argue that so much happened. Yes, I totally. This is my point. My point is that you spent so much time with them in that great universe, developing the chemistry, her smiling back and forth, like the way that they loved each other and the way that they came across was beautiful. And also, I grew up watching Nick at Night with my mom. So this was just right up my alley. And I know I'm a big fan of, I wasn't a big fan of certain episodes of The Mandalorian because they did such a shitty job when they did a side mission. And basically the first 2 episodes of this didn't further the plot, but they were great. They were interesting. They were engrossing. They made me think a little bit because there was glitches happening. You were wondering what was going on. There was so much in the first 2 episodes that I think people are just like, it didn't move the story along, and they're not giving enough credit to what it did for the characters.
My argument to that, and I really can't stand when people say this stuff, it's like, so if you were to turn the episode 3, like you just skip 1 and 2, you'd have no idea what was happening. So that's where, like, I think that's so asinine. I hear that a lot, and I get it, like, with seasons. Now, I know you're a Dexter guy.
I gave up after season 3.
Okay. Well, either way, there's a legit season of Dexter you could skip. You could just miss the whole season. It really doesn't, like, they like retconned it in a sense. But like in this show specifically, I completely disagree that you could just, the first 2 didn't, there was no plot line. Like, that's dumb to say. I feel like, if you didn't watch the first episode, first of all, like, the intrigue of the first episode, especially when, as I'm still going to call her, Kitty from that 70s show, is like the boss is like coming over. Oh, we don't have dinner ready. I get there's like goofy tropes and it's leading, but like where she says Vision help, and like Kitty's stuck in this weird, like laughing but really freaking out moment. Like,
it's great. You're figuring out what's going on. Something's up, and it's not like it didn't mean anything because what they're doing is they're watching it back later, and in that they're giving you exposition to go back to in the review of the show. I thought it was so brilliantly done to take a story that is basically 9 parts, right? 9 episodes, correct, and 3 sections of it, the first, beginning, middle, and end, basically, and then break it down into individual TV spoofs. And you saw the meaning of that payoff way later when you found out that's how she grew up, that's how she learned English. It was all so meaningful and impactful. And I think that's what people, they're not getting, but I think we're caught up in, especially with MCU, we're always waiting for who's going to be the big guest, who's going to do the big this, how much are we going to further the plot? Basically, what you've done is you've built up Wanda so great now, so rich, that whenever she does something in this, in this season, everything she did mattered. But now, putting her into another movie, you've built a Tony Stark level character out of a Disney show. You've built one of the richest characters in Marvel. She's rocketed up the sky. Like, she's rocketed through the rankings of people you care about because they spent so much time on her in this show. Rocket
Man. I care about her. I don't know if she's gotten to Tony Stark level. I don't think she's like an A tier. I don't think this is going to lead to her.
But she has that weight now. She is the most powerful character in the MCU, and you needed to give her this backing behind her.
She definitely, we've unlocked some serious treasures now that she is fully embraced and understands her powers. For those who have seen, we found out that Wanda created the Hex. She created this, world to have happiness with Vision and a future life with her child, Tommy and Billy, who I know are part of like the Young Avengers. So I think that will still come back into play. Obviously, we can get into some of the other characters and plot lines and scenes after and what things meant. But I think we both really like the show. I think it's hard for anybody to leave the 9 weeks, even if you didn't like the ending, which I give credit here to one of our buddies, Barrett, commenting here saying, great show. Ending could have been better if they introduced Mephisto or Nightmare. Want to see the House of M story instead of killing mutants. She created that she created, but c'est la vie. Well, a nice little way to end it. But I understand that sentiment from like people that know a lot. Like I've learned about the House of M. I learned about Mephisto through YouTube. Because was a hot search. It was the #1 trend every weekend was WandaVision.
Our guy Barrett is a huge fucking comic book guy.
Yeah,
probably
absolutely.
Up there with Fryer for one of the biggest comic book nerds, we know, and that's we know a lot of them.
Yeah, and we're all nerds of
I think
different
that's
things.
the problem when you have this kind of a setting, because I think they were just allowed to tell their story, and they did with these characters what they want, but people already have a previous attachment to these characters from other things, and you're trying to, well, what are we going to borrow from this? What are we going to borrow from that? And usually the MCU does it perfectly. What I would say is Wanda's story isn't over. I know her origin was messed with a little bit in this, but I think it was done beautifully. Like episode 8 is one of the best episodes of the series.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like to me, and we can kind of dive into this now. We can go down our list, but like one of the things that stood out to me, and this may seem kind of foolish to some people, but like one of my favorite things leaving this that like I would consistently like laugh at is like as the weeks went on, you see the titles of each episode. So they went in this order. Filmed before a live studio audience. Like, that's the name of the episode. Don't touch that dial. Now in color. We interrupt this program on a very special episode. All new Halloween spooktacular. Breaking the fourth wall. The series, previously on in the series finale. Like all those titles you just saw, some could be names of shows, but more are like tropes in TV.
Yeah, the terminology.
Mm-hmm. And I loved it. I thought that like the creation behind the show, the people behind the show, and like people always want to say, I think it's Matt Shankman. Am I saying that right? Shankman. I believe he's like the director, or Joe. I forget his name. We'll go Joe and Matt, directors and writers of the show, and obviously Kevin Feige having probably like an overarching role in this. Like credit to them because they did something that was so unique, so different, and again taking two characters, and I think the best way to put it, like as wrestling fans, is taking somebody out of the mid to low card, strapping the rocket on him, and letting it fly.
Yeah,
and I think
absolutely.
That's what
and you know, I said I think it transformed the way television was going to be done, and you didn't agree. And at the end of this, I still am staunchly like emboldened in my take because it's 9 episodes broken up creatively, and you know, I know you were like, well, you know, some episodes are this long, some episodes are that long. If you look at all of the episodes besides HBO stuff, which I think is different because that's a different format, all of these shows that are created for the app services are created with one day in mind and going back onto TV with commercials because they're all either 22 minutes or 44 minutes. So they told the exact thing that they wanted to do. And that's why I really love and respect this show just as a show. Take out the Marvel stuff. It's a great show with great meaning behind it. I mean, she goes through the 5 stages of grief. Davey brought that up a little bit. It's an allegory for, you know, someone who is grieving, and you know, she created this because she couldn't let him go.
Dude, 100%. And I think that at the end, what does this show have a ton of? It has a ton of heart. It has a ton of feeling. And then you relate to what Wanda went through because I don't care if it's just a breakup you went through, a passing in your family. We all have something that we, you know, there's somebody in our lives somewhere that we wish either could be here with us now, or at least you could speak to or have some form of last connection to. Because for Wanda, and I think one of the best tells of what I thought the show was, we didn't talk much about getting deep, but like the very first episode, a glass plate smashes Vision in the head, and Wanda makes the comment, "My husband and his, you know, strong head," or whatever the exact line is.
Indestructible or whatever.
Indestructible. Perfect. Is exactly, and that was the moment, like, where watching that again, I'm like, she's totally making reference to the fact that she couldn't, like, destroy his brain because that was the stone. There was a whole plot at the end of Infinity War, and then Thanos comes over. Eventually, she's able to do it at the very end, and this is where we say goodbye. And Thanos, you know, does time, kills himself. Bastard. But I think that's where like the show got me. And that's why I think those first few episodes are vital to the overall vibe of the show. But, you know, there's our little opening, at least soliloquy, Bill. When it comes to characters in the show, who stands out to you? Who did you like? And was there any characters you said, nah, get them out of here?
Not really. I think everybody played their part incredibly well. I mean, there's clearly a podium here. And I think we can argue who gets the gold medal. And I think it's bounced back and forth on the other podcasts. But I would put Wanda, I would put Elizabeth Olsen on the top of the podium here getting the gold.
Are we talking character or actress, likewise? Like,
so Wanda, I think, gets the gold. All right, yeah. So I jumped the gun here a little bit.
Okay.
And I still think it's the same. Think it's the same because, and maybe we can just combine them all here because I think that makes sense because Paul Bettany's right behind there. And then Catherine Hahn is Agnes. I mean, I think they all hit home runs, and Agnes stole the show, but Elizabeth and what's his name there, Bettany, were unreal chemistry from the word go.
Yeah. So it's hard. Obviously, my Justice for Vision would want to put Paul Bettany up in that number one spot because I actually think quietly throughout the whole show, his acting and his ability to like basically play like what's better, like a drone of a drone, and then actually like realizing within this world and like how his character arc and the way his facials as human vision, which by the way, I thought that was hilarious. Like that was only for like the first 4 episodes and then just like, Asker, just be Red Vision. We're going to put all the makeup on you. I thought he was really strong. You mentioned Wanda. I think at the end of the day, like she started off, like the first 3 episodes was all about her performance. Elizabeth Olsen was incredible. And then it kind of dipped a little, not because like we didn't see her do the same thing she did. And it's when we started to realize, okay, we're in some sort of weird world when she blasted, I can't think of names off the top of my head.
Photon.
Perfect. We'll
Rambo.
go with that.
Monica Rambo.
Yeah, Monica Rambo, which I thought was a nice tie into, Captain Marvel, because she was the mother who was best friends with Captain Marvel. Obviously, the years passed, the blip happened. But I thought that was really cool because I remember when Captain Marvel came out, there was all those blogs about who she was and Photon, which I don't know who Photon was previous. But I thought she would, like, once she blasted her out of the hex and you realize, okay, that's when Elizabeth Olsen kind of like went into like this, like just, and I don't want to say cruise control in a bad way, but her character and her acting was a little different for those next like 3 episodes.
Yeah, so the Modern Family episode, she really didn't put on the acting pants again, but not not for lack of, she just didn't have the scenes to crush like the other people had to crush in those episodes.
Absolutely. So I think at the end of the day, you have to go Elizabeth Olsen, Wanda, character - actress in the gold. I probably put Agnes Catherine Hahn in the silver just because the dynamic performances in very small doses, which sometimes it's easier to be better in small doses, especially over the first like 5. And then, well, she wasn't in that weird episode.
But she crushed each one. It was so comical every time. She just had just a magnanimous personality every time she walked into the screen. She crushed the horny housewife in the 50s and the 60s, and then the 70s was great. You get that wink at the garden of the next door neighbor, which is classic. That's going to be an all-time gif already.
Yeah.
And just so many good performances. Even when she was like, "Do you want me to take that one from the top?" She played that really well. She played Vision. So, and then, once we get to her solo episode, basically 7 through 9, where you kind of find out all about her, when the spotlight's more on her, I think she shines just as bright.
Yeah, I think she is right up there in those first 4 episodes. I remember saying this to my wife while watching. This is another thing. It was cool. Like my wife really got into the show, which is always helpful. But I found her to be almost as eating of the screen in small doses as the girl from Stranger Things in this last season 3, who literally, what's his name's girlfriend there, who was literally just in the scene over the phone.
This kid, I can't think of his name.
Kid
with the teeth.
Yeah, there you go. The kid with the teeth. But his girlfriend, when they were singing Neverending Story, literally, I've never seen a character eat up the screen and know they only have maybe 48 seconds of total screen time, eat it up. But Catherine Hahn, as Agnes, did it every time, especially like if you watch those first 4 back, you see it because she's probably only in a collective like 5-6 minutes per episode, and she is just diving right in there. So I thought she's going to get the silver there, and then I'll put Paul Bettany, Vision, #Justice for Vision, in that bronze spot. And he came on real strong in the finale. I thought he was super compelling. Like,
in episode 8, I mean, nearly brought me to tears. That's not a great feat for anyone. I might cry during this podcast, for crying out loud, because this was a great show. But we can dive into the characters a little bit. I think there's only really 2 characters, obviously, to deep dive into, but the transformation of Wanda and Vision throughout this is, I think, the best part of this show. I think that is it's obviously called WandaVision, but the journey that they take from Wanda not knowing to at the end having to accept and basically kill her whole family, to free this town. I think the journey that she goes on throughout it, we find out that she is the Scarlet Witch, and she kind of knew it all along. She's like, "Screw you, I don't really need you." Okey doked Agnes with the her own curse. So I think the journey that she goes on is phenomenal. And then Vision's, kind of His thing is so great because he's not really Vision. He's just created from Wanda, right? He's created from that part
It's
of
like
the
her
stone.
heart. It's her heart version.
Yeah, it's her
of
love.
Yeah.
Persevering. Literally, that is the metaphor that they were trying to get across, that her love persevered so strongly that she created a universe where she could still have him.
And I think that is one of the most compelling things at the end of the show. And we can kind of blend all these things we want to kind of talk about into just like an open form conversation here. But like even the setting of this show, like she created a place where they would be safe. No one could harm them, not knowing how she did it and not knowing kind of like what repercussions she had done to the space in New Jersey of Westview, that like she had no idea what that exactly she did, but she was just so happy, content, had Vision back. And I loved the one thing about this show, and I think people can appreciate, is they plugged in almost all the holes, even if they didn't tell you. Like one of our favorite shows, I think combined, is Lost. And they did a lot of the plugging of holes, and so does Bill on the weekend. But like there's a lot of like connecting some dots, even though that show Lost is kind of the overarching thing with that is they never answered anything. But a lot of things they did, just they kept telling you that you were going to get more. With this show, you didn't know there was mystery. They weren't teasing you with really anything. I know there were some interviews off camera, but like,
and Paul Bettany's being like, I've always wanted to work with this one actor, and it being himself is fucking awesome.
And I'll be honest, like I didn't know about that. So John Anderson, former coworker of mine over WEI, producer for Keith now, he like tweeted in like a thread I was talking in. He was like, I'm going to be so disappointed if this doesn't happen, that doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. I'm like, you're setting yourself up for utter disappointment. If any sentence starts, I'm going to be disappointed if. And as a huge wrestling fan, I say that quite often. And what do I usually end up, Bill?
Disappointed. But I think the expectations, because I had zero expectations for this, because again, I didn't know these guys that well, didn't care about them. And then as it went on, the expectations that were grown from the fans, stuff I didn't really know about. So I didn't really care. So I enjoyed this, I think, a lot differently than most people did. And that's why I think I have such a great, because to me, this was just like, obviously it had so much equity tied in from all of the movies that I knew so much about the universe. And I knew, the foundation of this character and their backstories for all of them. But the story that they told and the space that they did was a thing of absolute beauty. And I'll give credit to Fryer here. Not often that I do it. He said that good doesn't always mean rewatchable. I don't know how much I'm going to rewatch this, maybe one more time at some point in my life. But what it gave me right now, it's like a good book. You read it once and you're like, that was a fucking great book. One of my all-time favorite books. And if I'm bored, I'll go back to it.
That is a really solid point. And I don't think rewatchable has anything to do with being good, great, grand, or wonderful. But I do agree. But here's my assumption with this. Like the MCU has done many times, there is going to be something that happened within these 9 episodes, or we can get to it in a moment. Like those end scenes, the 2 post-credit scenes from the last episode. The first one is without a doubt going to be something that, I think we'll go back to see a little bit more of the photon creation, because my guess is that's alluding, when one of the Skrulls told her he's waiting for you. I'm guessing that's Nick Fury because of what we saw at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. Nick Fury basically hasn't been on Earth for what seems like some people have theorized several movies, including Infinity War, including Endgame, because he just knew that they could handle it. There's some comments, and I guess ties into the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I did not watch past season 1. But with that being said, so he's now recruiting potentially that next tier down, where I think then the next scene, very odd, didn't leave you with a really like, ooh, where's this going? More like maybe the Scarlet Witch is creating her powers as she was, drinking some tea, which all the good ones do. And then in the other room, you see her basically, I guess, practicing her powers as the Scarlet Witch, but you hear her sons, Tommy and Billy, voices. So my guess is she's going to kind of bring them.
You mean Jeffrey and Brian?
Is that the characters that somebody else called them?
During the Mac and Goo review, Goo called them Billy and Jason several times.
So I like it. The Jeffrey and Brian. Yes, Jeffrey and Brian were 2 of my favorite characters, by the way, in the world. But I think another thing that really stood out to me, Bill, and I know we're kind of bouncing here, but I kind of like this. It's fun. Nothing like saying something's fun to really spoil the mood. But one thing that maybe this is controversial to some of the other podcasts you may have listened to, I actually took a big, deep breath and exhale of like, thank God, in a way, once we found out when Agnes all along, which by the way, if that isn't the best scene of the whole damn show, aside from like the heartbreaking stuff, that song still, like, Disney, thank you. Thank you, Disney, for continuing to have epic villain themes.
They also made fun of you for thinking it was Fall Out Boy.
There it is. What are you talking about? That was Fall Out Boy, famous song. Yeah. What are you talking about? I want to dance like Uma Thurman, let my eyes fall off my head.
It was just that was an epic scene. Epic scene.
Awesome.
And then the epic scene at the end of the Brady Bunch where they square off when Vision finally realizes he doesn't know anything.
He's
basically.
like, stop it!
Like, what is going on? That scene is incredible. I think there's so many moments that you can point to that, like, if you just take a still image, would be like a dope poster to hang in your room forever from this, because it's just such a vivid show. And I think the thing that kind of connects it all is, though, even though almost every episode had a different feel, besides maybe the last two, they were very Marvel-y, is you didn't mistake it for WandaVision. It was kind of like an Outcast song. It was completely different than the one before it, but it was very much the same because of the two main players of Wanda and Vision keeping that character, keeping that connective tissue, keeping that relationship alive. And it was awesome. And I don't even know where we are now, but I do like us just bouncing back and forth.
No, one thing I wanted to say is the thing that gave me, I was nervous for, and something you've now dove into based on some of your tweets, is the best thing for me, and I think even from a fan base, and I know we want this to get bigger and bigger and more exciting, is that Evan Peters was just a nice touch of like a misdirection, if you will, with him playing Pietro, as Agnes called him, which I thought that was funny that she in her own head came up with her own term for a fake Pietro, but that he wasn't playing the X-Men version. We weren't diving into this gigantic, we weren't opening up another, like,
I kind of liked it. It was kind of like a screw you nerds.
But I don't think it was a screw you nerds. I think it was a nod. It was like a tongue in cheek, like, hey, we know what we're doing. You get it. Like, once you got it, like, once it's over, I'm sure people are disappointed. They wanted like X-Men in there, but it's like,
because you're gonna get it in Doctor Strange. It's called the Multiverse of Madness. I mean, it's gonna happen.
Well, we don't know that. I don't know if they're gonna go that far.
It's most likely going to happen in some way soon.
And I think, well, because don't forget, Spider-Man, we also have gotten all the rumors that that's going to be a whole multiple verses. There's rumors of, older Spider-Man returning, of, whether it's Andrew Garfield, whether it's the greatest Spider-Man of all time, the ones from Into the Spider-Verse. They're going to have some fun with these movies. And obviously Tobey Maguire just doing his little arm shaking thing. But with all that said, like, I think that was helpful to me because I realistically, just me, and maybe I speak for some, maybe I'm a silent minority or the dope, but like, if they dove into the X-Men side and they try to bring all this, I feel like you could go too big, and that's where I think your expectations go way off. Like, if they make it part of Doctor Strange, cool. If they make it part of Spider-Man, great. But as long as they're not trying to interweave all these stories into these, like, future for the next, because I feel like sooner or later, like, something's going to blow up. Something's going to go wrong for them. So I like that they're at least compartmentalizing all these properties they own with Fox and Disney, and them all being under one brand.
The main thing that I like that they did here is they built up Wanda so well, and I do think that she was kind of the villain in this. She kept a whole town hostage, and I know that SWORD was after her, and for kind of good reason. These people were not happy. They, I believe somebody compared it to a Get Out moment where they all got kind of cut loose, and they were like, please, Wanda, either just let us go or kill us because we can't live like this. So she is kind of the big bad here in some ways. And I think that proves a little bit that, why Thanos was so good, because he believed in a plan, and his plan kind of made sense. What Wanda was doing made sense. And even Photon at the end was kind of like, I would have done the same thing. And I think a lot of us would have done anything to keep a loved one that we had alive by any means necessary. And then she kind of realizes, like, I am being an asshole. I need to, let all of these people go. And that was the only thing. And she kind of just walks away. And this is, the wrestling thing where I'm like, you could just fix that with a pen stroke where somebody walks up and says, hey, Wanda, you're coming with us. And she just goes, what are you going to do? And flies away. I think we get that anyways, that you're not going to take Wanda Maximoff fucking captive. But love that. And you've built her with a good storyline going into the Doctor Strange movie where she's going to be going after her children and like a bat out of hell. And that's a very good reason for somebody to be very bad. Yeah,
I do. That is, I think, one thing. And we're all over the place here, but like, is that what's to come? Is Wanda going to be a big bad in phase 4, or is she going to be part of the solution still? Are they going to try to create, the Mephisto characters, these Nightmare? Are we going to get more of them? Is Agnes going to be weaved back in? Obviously, her role in the comics was more of a caretaker and someone that kind of helped Wanda execute, which we kind of saw, by the way, at the end, where she was like, if I need you, I know you're there. But also, didn't that all go away at the end? So isn't Agnes free again to be a witch? 30 seconds later?
I mean, maybe she maybe could just hex her. I mean, she's a pretty powerful being. She could probably just hex one person for a very long time. And there's no reason that she couldn't go back to Agnes when, say, I think Davey made this point, Doctor Strange won't help her get the children back. And she's like, all right, Agnes, you help me get them back. And then she becomes bad.
So I guess, there's the question. More like, what do you think? Do you want to see Wanda be the big bad as part of this next phase in Doctor Strange as well?
I do, because it would torture me. Seeing her as the villain would be so tugging on my heartstrings that I wouldn't want it to happen, so it would make for a compelling story.
So it's kind of like the old face heel turn, in a sense, where it's almost like in wrestling term, you don't get these great compelling stories anymore where we got stuff like this, the long term, this person turned heel because it's the only way they could have got to their resolution, whether it be world champion, whatever. But I feel like for Wanda, she just did this horrible thing, not knowing it was horrible. It was just her emotions outpouring when she was basically set up by Sword to get her heart broken. As uncontrollable, unleashes all this power that unleashes all this energy that they realize, okay, we're going to maximize this. We're going to recreate a vision to do what we need to do, basically take her out. And then we have all this situation of power now finally as a organization. And I think the funny part of that is obviously this plan A did not work. B, I don't know where Sword goes from here if they're going to continue to be a part of this, but I find it to be so interesting where that all takes Wanda, because now she knows she just harmed all these people for, I don't know how long the show took place, length of time.
Couple of days, I think.
Oh yeah, I was going to say a week, maybe 9 days to make it a day per. So she has to somehow sit with that. I screwed all these people up in part of their life to try to create something, and then I had to break that again. So she created children, she re-brought back her husband in this case, but Vision, and then she had to kill them off again, in a sense. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where I think, and we can get into those final scenes where, by the way, the Vision showdown in the season finale.
Oh, Vision versus Vision, phenomenal.
This goes again to show this is where you have a track record, and they could actually put out the money to make it. I felt like I was watching a Marvel movie in that final episode. It was 40 minutes
you
long.
were. It was 100% a Marvel movie. And I know people have a problem with the villain versus villain, the same character versus the same character as your villain, but it worked perfectly in this one. You saw what Sword was trying to do, and that was the biggest okie doke, switcheroo in the whole thing, when they just edited the video of Wanda making it look like she stole Vision, when and that was mind blowing, because you're like, all right, well, who the fuck is this Vision?
Mm-hmm.
That to me was, if you're talking about things you wanted to see happen, that came out of nowhere, and I was blown away by that piece of this story.
And that, by the way, at the end of this whole thing, that other Vision who kind of is a segue of both is now currently out there. He exists in the world.
With both memories. With his old memories and now the new memories from, his time with Wanda. So hopefully we get the happy ending way down the road that I really want to see one day with Wanda and Vision reunite, because and it feels so good. Would be fantastic. And I think there's a long road to get there, but if that's the payoff, that's awesome. I would absolutely love that. And I know, is he really Vision? Is he still connected to her? Yeah, I think he is. To me,
100%.
If you have both memories of that, you're a being that was kind of created anyways.
He's not a real person.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing that they broke down in WandaVision, I have WandaVision, a WandaVision podcast, wasn't it so fantastic to see Vision beat Vision with logic? They battled for 10 minutes, and then they were just like, hey, let me explain to you why this isn't a good idea. And he's like, you're right.
It's kind of like a weird trope in comedy, right? It's they're beating the crap out of each other, slapping, and then they kind of realize why are we doing this? Well, here's why I'm doing this. Oh, here's why I'm doing this. let's sit down and talk and have some pancakes.
You're here to destroy Vision. Well, I'm not Vision. You're actually Vision.
Yeah, you're trying to destroy yourself in a sense. I'm basically a memory of love from that witch out there that's fighting another witch, by the way. Another thing I think with the show that was really cool that I don't think got enough pub, and I don't know, like all the podcasts listening to, I've got WandaVision, a WandaVision podcast that has now been recreated, is the commercials that were airing throughout the show that tied in so well. Like, these are the things. They didn't come out and say, hey, here's what this meant. Hey, here's what this meant. They did in some cases. Like, that's what Agnes's role was to a degree. But, like, for the most part, those were, like, as you watch, like, it was stuff all that tied in. Like, the little beeper on the toaster had something to do with, you know, the Stark bomb that went off that basically murdered Wanda and Pietro's family. And that was important because, like, I didn't get them. Like, what does this toaster have to do with anything? And then why am I seeing commercials for this Nexus? Like, but then if you read between the lines, there's basically, like, what she was going throughout those episodes. As Wanda deteriorated, those commercials were advertising products that basically were for people either depressed or don't believe they can survive. Like the cool one with the shark on the island and the kid couldn't, like, get it done and eventually died. Like, that was like a sign of her realizing, like, I can't keep this up. Like, this is not going to be able to.
People wanted, like, direct explanations or direct payoffs from those things. And when you read a book or, you know, watch a movie that isn't going to but like if old storytelling, they didn't have to beat you over the head and tell you exactly why they were doing something. You were supposed to infer the meaning. And I think we're so caught up in, let's progress the story. Why isn't the story moving along? Why isn't this paying something off that already happened? You kind of got to look at something, read into it and be like, oh, I think that's what it means. And, you know, that's why they do those kind of things, because it might mean different things to different people. And I don't know, like the hate that this show got for not progressing the story and not moving quickly enough early on. That's what people are lowering the score for. And
really,
you know,
I have not seen that. Maybe it's just the circles I've seen in. I didn't hear like Goo. I haven't heard him say, like, I was listening to their podcast. I didn't feel like those guys were crushing that.
I thought you didn't listen to their podcast.
I did. I absolutely did. Not every single moment of every single episode, but I
thought you didn't listen to any of the WandaVision reviews.
No. In the past, I didn't listen to this week. I did not listen to Mac and Goo. Did not listen to Dork. Change my mind because sometimes I know I can be like, oh, I'll hear something, be like, oh, I agree with that, or oh, maybe that changes my mind. Fitting. Nice plug for those guys.
I just did it because I figured.
Oh, you were different, dude. You do you.
Well, yeah, because three people have already reviewed this. I figured I'd give a little bit of a take on their take.
But that doesn't mean people that are listening to us listen to that.
It's true.
Think about it. It's crazy. Weird world we live in. A lot of content out there. Appreciate people listening to us, by the way. But no, I just think like there were so many strong stories, so many like nods. A couple characters I also just want to give little shout outs to. And maybe this was some of the stuff I did hear people say like they didn't like. But I thought Darcy in the show, like people did not like her in the Thors. I loved her in this role. I thought she was likable. I thought. Like, I don't see what was unlikable about her with Jimmy. Like, I love the Hex Files. There was a lot of, like, people, like, I saw on Reddit, like, there was, like, re-images of the X Files with the Hex Files with those two. Jimmy Woo, like, in all the little innuendos back to Ant-Man, like, with the single card trick and, like, being able to finally do magic that he was teasing a lot with Ant-Man's daughter. Like, I love that. Big fan of him as well. I thought he was really good in this. I want to see where they progress kind of those characters. They've kind of been, like, innuendo-ly tossed in and out of MCU movies. But I thought Darcy was great. I thought this was a good way to kind of bring her back in and not like a big roll your eyes moment in her, especially watching and being the note taker for WandaVision.
I didn't love it. I love Jimmy Woo. Jimmy Woo is fantastic. I love that guy in absolutely everything. The card stuff was adorable. But with the Darcy stuff, I actually was like, yeah. And then she kind of got better as we went along, but I didn't love her. And then my favorite thing was what everybody hated when she crashes the car and goes, has fun in prison. And I was just like, yeah, everybody hated that. I was like, that's fine.
What do people want? Like, they want like a better line. Like, first of all, it was the only scene she was
disappeared.
That's what I was going to say. It's the only scene she was in the last episodes. You know what it made me feel like? They go, oh, crap, we got to get Kat in here. We're paying her. Let's just throw a number 30 grand.
She was great in the Modern Family Arrested Development, the Office episode. I thought she was good in that one, giving fake Vision, the exposition of what happened to him. I thought she was pretty good in that one. But other than that, she was just kind of Kat Dennings. She was kind of annoying. I
thought she was great throughout those. Will say the last one, like she literally just wasn't until that moment. Yeah, have fun in prison, which I wanted to be like, do these people even go to prison? Like, what happens? Like, this is so unworldly that, like, I don't know. I felt like, it was just it was stupid, but funny. I like Kat. I don't have nothing against Kat Dennings. Kevin over, he asked, did White Vision destroy himself after realize he is Vision? He is programmed to do so. I don't think so. I think he just flew off. I think he was just I think he just left the hex because he had the power to do so at that moment, realizing all that he knew.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he did either, and I think he'll probably sit with the memories of the new Wanda, and hopefully we get him again. I mean, that's a theory that could have happened. He could have, killed himself because at that point he was programmed to do so. But hopefully his old memories that he accessed and his new memories were like, nah, fuck that. Fuck these people telling me to kill basically myself. So I didn't really think that he offed himself, and I think he's too important going forward. And now you have so much built into him, literally and figuratively. What is it, $3 billion worth of vibranium and 9 episodes on a Disney Plus show? I don't think he's dead. I don't think he I don't think there's any way they'd kill him off. Especially
I'm gonna go ahead and guess that White Vision toy, whenever it's released, is gonna be a big hot seller. With that, Bill, what did you think about basically the Evan Peters? One thing I wanted to touch on that whole thing was one long boner joke. Basically, he was brought in to make people believe we had an X-Men tie-in, to then find out it was Agnes kind of controlling it, making him come into the show to try to get the information of how Wanda did this, to find out his last name was Boner.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice shout out to the Seaver family, I believe. So,
yes, good call.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. That wasn't that his friend?
Yeah, Boner. They pointed that out on
that's funny.
I Have WandaVision, a WandaVision podcast. So that was a nice little touch. I didn't mind it. Again, I kind of like them saying "F you" to the X-Men fans, just because I kind of like.
F you. I
don't think it was an F you either, but it's also like the director and the writer were like, people are going to be upset because they think all this stuff's going to happen, and we're going to okie doke them. And I kind of like that. It's because
great.
I think, and somebody else made this point too, and maybe I shouldn't have watched because now I'm saying that on everything, but I think they're going to save the really big storyline stuff for movies and use these shows as ways to build up characters.
I think that might be again, to take a wrestling that's like a tournament where you're not going to have this guy win. Let's use King of the Ring or something. Like, they're not going to be the one that comes out of it as the winner, but you're going to be compelled to see where they go from here. Like, I think these are all like same thing, like Falcon and Winter Soldier. Well, Winter Soldier had huge story arcs and played a major role in phase 2 and 3. But I'm sorry, I forget my phases. But like Falcon, like nothing. Like, there's been we haven't scratched the surface with him, especially now with him gaining Cap Shield. So I think it's a really good point.
6 episodes to dive into those characters. So when you hit the movie, he's ready to hit the ground running as the new Captain America, which is banana land because you would have to spend so much time in the beginning of a movie to make that work perfectly. Now you can kind of do it in these Disney Plus shows, which I think is the way to do it. And I think they've kind of cracked the code to make it to the small screen, which was, that was, everybody's big thing. This is their first debut to the small screen. And they treated it as one giant.
They had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's just been on for like 5 years.
Their first Disney Plus 4 where they put all the money behind it, put the production behind it, put that wow level into it. And I think that's what they're going to do with these, which is brilliant because you're just hooking people in even further.
Yeah, I think no matter what, we'll get into our ratings in just a moment, but this show did everything that made me love what I love about television. I got 6 days to theorize on social media, Reddit, with you, with friends, with my family who doesn't even watch. I'm like, gotta watch this show. Even if you didn't have to watch the MCU, in my opinion, films to watch the show. Now,
I don't think you did either. It would have helped a lot.
Of course, but I don't even if you just watch the main ones, literally the Avengers films, you're fully immersed in what happens here. Because obviously, there's little things here and there, but the good storytelling, the major plot points for these characters prior was Ultron, Infinity War, and Endgame, which Endgame barely. But by the way, they weren't even in because again, that movie was okay. But this really was so fun. I had such a blast. That's why there are certain people on Twitter, our timelines, tweeting at us, with us, as personal or at the Pop Culture PD account, saying oh, I'm gonna wait till it's all done and binge them all. What a mistake if you chose to do that, in my opinion. You really missed out on Like this
Community. You missed out on
Yes.
Community.
And like the Mephisto, like that thing, like we talked about. I don't know who the hell Mephisto is. He's like the devil of Marvel. Cool. I want to get to know him if they bring him in. But like I learned about this dude from these absolute theory-based YouTube videos and conversations that you're talking about are, with Goo and Wes. And like it was really compelling to me to like have those conversations. And even though that stuff didn't come through, like again, I'm built as like a wrestling fan, which I know every week I'm gonna have like 18 hours of it, but I'm like, oh, maybe this is leading to that. Hey, what do you think? Or how does that think? Like it's so much fun. Again,
That's why Lost is both of our favorite shows.
We loved
because we
Bill.
had the experience. And I think
had
that people
so much time.
Yeah. I think people who didn't, watch it live and binged it have a very, very different experience of it.
Yeah. And like I watched some shows like The Office, totally different style, right? Which I'm gonna get Peacock soon, by the way, so I'll hook it up for you for once. But I literally like that show isn't that same thing. It's more of a funny and it's conversation. It's one of the it's like a pop culture icon television show of all time, but different. Like a show like we mentioned, like a Lost, or where WandaVision is, and there's so many shows in between. But like even Sopranos, like I watched Sopranos for the first time, binged it. I could feel how exciting that must have been in a week-to-week side. Like, where do you think this plot line's going? Where do you think that plot line's going? And I like, you can't replicate that. That is the joy of being a fan of something, to talk about it, to make conversation, to build a community around it, or even just small circles of friends and buddies. Like, that's cool. And so to
It's
everyone
like
who
watching
watches
a fucking sports team. Like imagine
It
if they
really
played all
is.
16, like you watched all
I talked about this.
16 Patriot games back to back to back to back and didn't have any weeks in between. Like you just waited to binge them all at the end and stayed off social media. How much fun would that be? None.
I said that recently on a Dream stream, Bill, over at DraftKings, which, by the way, guy I did it with today, absolutely brutal, told me we are no longer talking about something. Literally, like, we get at each other at times, all in love because you're one of my best dudes. But, like, think about it. Like, imagine you literally and it wasn't, like, personal. We're having the conversation about WandaVision. And you're like, we're not talking about that no more.
We're through.
Like, what? Anyways, but seriously, like, this show was great. I look forward, even if we don't do all these recaps all the time, like, or if people enjoyed us talking about this, if they hate some of the things we said, let us know, because I'm already looking forward to, Winter Soldier and Falcon, because I don't know if my wife will deeply, because I do think, just being honest, like having a female lead character superhero, I think really helped. I think it was also a good way for them to start, because again, these are B, D, C, F tier characters that got the pencil written in their direction here. I don't know what's going to happen with this next show, but I love it, and I'm looking forward to all the theories that I'm going to learn. I don't know crap about Falcon, Bill. I could tell you no things about Falcon. Zero things.
He's funny.
Is he? Is the
Right.
comics? Is that his history? Is he hilarious? I have no history, so I'm looking forward to it.
I am now super excited for Loki as well, because Tom Hiddleston,
Higgleston.
whatever it actually is. He's
Awesome actor.
phenomenal. He's a phenomenal actor. I love Loki. He's one of my favorite characters. So to get a show this quality, which I'm sure will be as engrossing, phenomenal. And then the Marvel What If, which I was like, this is going to be stupid.
Stealing my gimmick.
It's going to be, I think it might be the best thing Marvel's ever done, because if they just get to be completely creative and just go completely off book and do whatever the fuck they want, like, give that to me. Give that to me all day.
Bill, let's rank it, baby. By the way, Bill, the number of the day today was 11. 11 times, fitting for the show. Bill said phenomenal. So, will you, Bill, out of 1 and 11, WandaVision, what do you rate this show?
I will give it a 10.5.
I thought we were going to go rock hard there for a second. I can't disagree with you. This isn't an 11, because I don't think, but like the experience, and obviously it's recency bias, but this was a ton of fun. It was a ton of fun. It really, it rocked in my household. We were talking about it each and every single week. My wife, it was the only time I could think of her actually saying, when are we watching WandaVision? It was every Friday as soon as my son went to bed, and I said, SmackDown first. And she didn't like that. And 10 o'clock, it was like locked in, aside from the finale, which I'm giving the show an overall 10 out of 11. But I did want to ask this, and we didn't really talk too much about it. Did you like the ending? Like, not the metaphorical ending and the love, but like, did you feel any letdown? Did you think you were going to get more?
I had a feeling it was going to be Agatha all along, for a decent time. I thought you might get some Strange, because
like you do on the weekend again.
Don't we all want some Strange? But we didn't get Doctor Strange, which I'm fine with. But I did like her having to choose and making the right choice and walking away. I would have liked a curveball in there too, but I didn't get it. But the story ended. I think the only thing keeping this from an 11 was the ending. I just think it wasn't as forceful. I think you could have done a little bit more to have it spill out a little bit harder at the end, play with the townspeople a little bit more, play with Agatha a little bit more. The only thing I would have liked is an end credit scene with somebody who was pulling the strings with Agatha, but maybe she just was her all along. So that was the only thing that kind of hurt it, was the ending. I didn't think they hit a home run on. They kind of hit like a triple.
Yeah, it was like a double with men on. They scored a run. I agree. I don't want to say I was never disappointed, but I think I was expecting maybe just a little tiny bit more from that final showdown, like whether it was somebody else pulling the strings, whether Sword with that other vision had some sort of more diabolical plan, like he was going to explode the Hex. Like I thought there was never, like, aside from Wanda having to give up her powers, which, to be honest, if she did, like, it wouldn't have hurt me. It still would have played to the emotion. Like, I felt like they didn't have like that moment where it's like, they're gonna blow this thing to shreds and kill you, kill your memory of your children, and kill all these townspeople. So your choice is to destroy all this, save yourself, and do this on your own, or we're gonna like murder people. Like I thought the stakes didn't seem that next level high, but again, yeah, I was a little thrown off that Agatha was like as seriously evil as she was. But again, her story kind of led to like her being like this witch that basically kind of like wanted more powers than she really ever had and was capable of. She okey-doked one crew once, and she thought she could do it again. But obviously Wanda being what we now know, the Scarlet Witch, with those books written after, which again is ties into Doctor Strange, because I'm sure Wes talked about this as well, that there's one book missing from the Doctor Strange movies. Is this the book that they were referencing that Agatha had? And the one last thing I want to say that I think like that was never told to us, written out. If you remember, Jimmy Woo said he has all the characters' headshots aside from one. And I think a lot of people are like, ooh, who's this going to be? Is it going to be a time? But I think that was the Evan Peters character of Boner, because he was the only one that they didn't show.
Yeah, I mean, probably.
Because if they showed it, then we would have saw Evan Peters and been like, holy crap, blah, blah, blah. But the next episode, he was revealed. There was like little things like that I think we're watching week to week, built up more in your head and theorizing than the execution. Like with Photon there, when she said, oh, I'm going to meet somebody, a scientist outside, everyone's like, oh, it's Fantastic Four, Boner alert, here come all the nerds. But it was like, no, it was just some lady.
Yeah, just some random scientist who wound up not being on her side.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, some lady was in Sword. But love the show. I give it a 10. You give it a 10.5. So a 10.25 is the Pop Culture Piledriver score. Hope you enjoyed it. Let us know. You can tweet us at Pop Culture PD. Bill, this is going to be the hardest part of this podcast you have ever done.
This week in
Shared Universe.
Well, besides Mac and Goo, everybody did WandaVision. They did, of course, the 1989 classic Aliens.
Weird choice.
And then the Pineapple Boys are doing a season 1 recap.
Ooh, Boner alert. Yeah, that's cool. So you guys are going to just basically review the entire season 1 of Psych. Got it. I look forward to it. That's on Thursdays. Again, we'll post those. Usually come out Monday. I don't think we did it this week yet. We'll come out. And then, yeah, tons more content. By the way, our brackets, because me and Bill talked, we're going to do our 90s music bracket. Everybody in the the Dorkshire Gooniverse, the DSG, has got hot and heavy. So we'll give it a little cool off time. We'll still fill it all in March. It will start Monday the 16th, which is almost a week from now if you're watching it, listening to us live.
Right around when actual March Madness starts, too.
Maybe Sunday will be Selection Sunday. Maybe when the camera stops rolling, me and William D will do a little discussion. But nonetheless, appreciate you guys joining us. This was a ton of fun. We both loved the show. We loved conversing with everybody about it. So let us know your thoughts. Feel free, again, tweet at us, follow at Pop Culture PD. Check out the podcast. Even if you tell a friend, listen, leave a 5-star review on iTunes. It goes a hell of a way to help us out, get us a friend, more eyes, more eyeballs, and just makes us go to bed and make ourselves feel a little bit better about what we do for fun. You can check out the t-shirts at tpublic.com. Search Pop Culture Piledriver. He can be found at Billy D 2411 What are you grabbing? I thought you were grabbing a shirt.
I was grabbing my phone, but I will also say that if you go to my Instagram at BillyD2411, you can find my link tree. It's not just for OnlyFans people, and find the direct link to our merch as well.
Did you say link tree?
Yeah.
Ooh. What's the biggest part of a tree, Bill?
The bottom part there, the stump.
The bottom part there, Bill. And what's the biggest part of you, Bill?
My brain.
The stump. The stump, baby. All right. He can be followed.
The trunk.
There you go. That too. At Billy D 2411. Slide in them DMs, boys and girls. You never know. He's wild. Plug holes and get some strange on the weekend. I'm at Jason D Rossi. Much appreciate everyone for listening. You have a lot of choices of content out there, especially when it came to WandaVision. Literally a click of play keeps the boners going every day. Appreciate you all very much. Don't forget, check out franksaishigh.com. You donate. We're going to be having big fundraiser news coming soon there. Bill, final word?
Bird is the word, but go watch WandaVision again. Tell us what you think. Slide into the DMs, as you said. Phenomenal show. Very happy to talk about it, and look forward to discussing Cap's Booze, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming up.
Love you, Bill. Love the world. Frank says hi.